Very good evening to all the participants this evening. You're welcome to the 45th webinar, which is a Friday leadership conversation that we have been organizing every Friday without any interruption. I'm very happy to share with you that the 45th webinar is going to cover a very interesting topic, how to view the world with a digital tilt, and how the Brightcom group has actually done in its way. Today, I will share a presentation to introduce the guest, and then I'll talk about how the distinguished speaker is going to focus on this topic and a little bit more about the background of the speaker, and allow me to share the screen. So WiseViews leadership conversations have been taking place over the last 10 months. This is the 45th conversation. Viewing the world with a digital tilt the Brightcom way. Mr. Suresh Reddy, Chairman, CEO of the Brightcom Group, is supposed to speak today. That's what we have announced. But just a few hours back, we came to know that he is actually unwell and he could not sit through this presentation and talk. And so he quickly requested one of his leadership team members to actually fill in for him. And therefore, we have Mr. Peshwa Acharya is another distinguished leader himself who is actually standing in for Mr. Suresh Reddy. This is, everything generally is written about Mr. Suresh Reddy. We'll have to bear with that for a while. First 20 to 30 minutes is a talk by the speaker, followed by another 30 minutes of Q&A, which is moderated by Professor Prasad and myself. Mr. Suresh Reddy's credentials are well known. He's a very distinguished entrepreneur, and he has built various organizations, including the current one, the Brightcom Group, and they are into digital marketing and variety of advertising tech formats. And it's been very, very interesting to know a little more about this organization. So what I will do right now is quickly switch to Mr. Peshwa Acharya. He is the President Group Strategy at Brightcom Group. He is a distinguished leader himself with variety of career options that he pursued before, and I'm sure it is going to be very, very interesting. And he has joined at a very short notice, given the fact that Mr. Suresh Reddy is unwell. Over the last 45 conversations, this is the first time we have come across this possibility that the speaker is unwell. I'm sure this is going to be true even in future sometimes. Exigencies don't come with any advance notice, and therefore we have to be prepared. We ourselves don't know how to be prepared when we have made an announcement to all of you that we are going to have a session with Mr. Suresh Reddy. But luckily in this case, Mr. Peshwa Acharya is stepping in, and I'm extremely thankful to this distinguished leader who is filling in for Mr. Suresh Reddy. So thank you, sir. Thank you, and good evening, and welcome to this conversation. I will introduce Mr. Peshwa Acharya. He's got a fantastic profile. He's an industry veteran. Mr. Acharya previously was the Chief Marketing Officer at the Ampersand Group, Vibgyor Schools. He was responsible for marketing, revenue, and admissions. He has a vast experience of around 30 years across FMCG, retail, telecom, e-commerce, hospitality, and education domains, as varied as it can be. Mr. Acharya is an alumnus of IIT Kharagpur and the prestigious IIM Calcutta, and has worked in various cities in India and across Asia and Africa. He has held various leadership roles for distinguished brands like P&G, Reckitt, Pepsi, Dabur, Reliance Retail, Globacom Africa, and Sterling Holidays. Some of the brands that he launched and relaunched are Reliance Digital, Hutch, Ariel, Dettol, Promise, Harpic, Mortein, Babool, Apps Daily, and Housing.com. Fantastic track record. In 2015, he was handpicked as the first CEO of IIT Bombay's Research and Innovation Park called Aspire. He also founded entrepreneurial ventures. He was an entrepreneur before. He founded thinkasconsumer.com, which was a strategy and marketing consulting firm, and also Levin Healthcare, which is a dialysis center or a dialysis facility, which he founded. Amazing track record across diverse domains, and I'm sure there is this rich experience which is going to come across when we are going to interact with him this evening. So once again, I'm extremely happy to share with you that we have a great leader with us this evening who is going to talk about how to view the world with a digital tilt and how Brightcom has done its way. I will also take one more moment to introduce my co-panelist. He's my senior colleague, Professor R. Prasad. He's the professor and course mentor of the latest program that we have launched. It is called Online MBA. His focus areas have been strategy and entrepreneurship. He himself was an entrepreneur before. His corporate experience was about 12 years, and teaching and research was for about 17 years. It is a very interesting and distinguished coincidence that both the speaker as well as the moderator were batchmates at IIM Kolkata. And it's a sort of a reunion now, and I hope they will. I hope Professor Prasad will continue to pose tough questions, and he will not dilute any question just to favor his friend. Of course, Professor Prasad was from IIT Mumbai, whereas Mr. Peshwa was from IIT Kharagpur. So Professor Prasad also has published several journal articles, edited 8 books, 4 conference papers, and also published recently a book on these leadership conversations. We actually co-authored, and the WiseViews Lessons from the Game Changers was published a month back. So with this brief background, what I will do now is I'll stop sharing my screen, and we will request Mr. Peshwa Acharya to begin with his presentation. And after that, we will come back for questions and answers. Ladies and gentlemen, over to you. Thank you very much for bearing with us. And now let's listen to Mr. Peshwa Acharya. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Professor Rao, and thank you, Prasad. Really great. Wonderful to be here. Okay. And I'm always delighted whenever I possibly get to speak and interact with really young India. I have a lot of hope for that. And I think really from the time when we were young, I'm still young at heart, but I think really lots have happened, lots of opportunities. So I'm really thankful to you. So the way we will do it is I'll quickly try to, I usually don't do PPTs, that's not my style. I usually make a jotting of a few points and I talk and share my experience. But in this case, because you requested, I have done a kind of small PPT and I'll try to share with you. Yeah. So I'll start sharing my screen, everyone, if that's okay. Yeah. Are all of you able to see what I'm presenting, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So I will initially talk a bit about Brightcom, then I'll talk a little bit beyond Brightcom and more around technology. So we are really a global ad tech corporation, fairly large. If you see, and I've just put in a few slides of our website. This is Suresh's LinkedIn. I thought that was important if any of you kind of want to see. This is my LinkedIn, of course. Yeah. And today, if you see, though I should not give any guidance, but we are looking actually of a 5,000 crore revenue, so it's a fairly largish company with around 1,700 plus professionals, experts across the world, including India, 25 offices worldwide. Yeah, and fairly large in terms of from a ad tech company's point of view, fairly large. Large number of platforms we operate in, and as many of your young professionals will know, today marketing is extremely technology driven. So it's all tech really. These are just some of the kind of brands which we have done work for, and there are lots more. And the whole fun of our digital marketing today is that you can actually do what you want. So as a client or as an client side, you can choose what you want to do. Like me as a CMO, I have actually used a huge amount of these networks called Taboola and all that. We have really used a lot. So this is really what, if in short, in a very easy way, this is what Brightcom Group brings on the table. Yeah, and we have a large number of what we call our proprietary products like Brightcom, Compass, and others. That's what we have. It really helps the clients to deploy in the most effective manner their brand advertising. That's what it does. And most of the examples you will see are actually across the world, not just India, because we have a large footprint across the world. So, and again, this is really from a marketer's point of view. Anyone who is right now really in core marketing, digital marketing, they'll really appreciate. This is what most of the marketers are looking for: social, programmatic, native ads, the whole kind of things. That's what we look at. Mm. This is very important, I think, because today, as we know, video is becoming very important. So, rich media innovations are very important. So, again, some of the people who are really deploying their brand marketing will know all these things really Brightcom Group does. Native video innovation, I personally think that really video analytics will become one of the key areas within the whole digital marketing and marketing domain, which we really need to learn a lot more. There is a lot of AI/ML being built into that. A lot of things which we previously could not think of are actually happening today. Hmm. So I'll not take too much of time, because I think these are all known to people. So really not too much of time. uh, I'll not do too much of our more of a our own plug. I'll not get into that really, but essentially this is what Brightcom Group is about. It's about providing the best service to our clients. Mm, and anyone who has been in marketing knows that marketing typically follows that path which is called PER, planning, execution, review. So the better quality planning anyone does, your execution becomes much better. So I think this is a similar thing. Brief and planning and optimization, it's exactly the same thing. So it kind of is on the similar bedrock of a management principles, that do your planning well, your output will always be better. um, there are lots of case studies, but this is what I could rustle immediately, which I could get, I thought. And some of you know, of course, Maruti is an extremely successful brand in India. They are doing a lot of good marketing. They have retained market share, and these are some of the things which I think, the brand team and the marketing team, they did. And this is where we came in. And of course, programmatic display advertising is very well known today. That's really, I think all marketing people know that today it's all about programmatic. You actually say what you want and go after those audiences. And this is just an example from some of the work which happened. So this is a little bit about the really to get into the basics of what Brightcom does. So this is a little bit of an internal presentation. So so I would want people to be a little bit careful about this, but I'm still showing some parts of it. This is a little bit of a company presentation. We are actually, our guidance is around 5,000 crores revenue. That's what we are looking at. And we have actually, very interestingly, I think last month touched 70 billion impressions in a month, which is really a large number. I think last month, sorry, maybe month before, we touched. And during this pandemic period, actually the whole thing of digital advertising and digital marketing really has gone ahead. It has really gone north, because that's what most of the clients are utilizing digital much better right now. Okay, so this is, I think, our executive team, and you have a, I think, team across everywhere. So some of the financial figures, I think I'm not really going through, but these are some of our tools. But Brightcom Video Player is one of the early tools, which has been there. I am a very strong votary of this thing called Be Local, because one of the consumer trends which I am noticing, both as being part of our executive team as well as a marketing professional, is that today there are two kinds of news or two kinds of information which audience really is looking for. One is anything which is extremely global, people want to know that. Second thing is anything which is extremely local, also people want to know that. That thing about hyper local has really come in. So that is very important. So I think this is one really futuristic vehicle which lot of marketing people can use across the world. um, okay, this is our new kind of investment and acquisition on the company, which is Hyderabad based Media Mint, um, high quality digital marketing company. That's what really we have invested on. So I don't think anything more. Can you guys, all of you, see this?
Yes,
Prasad?
we
Okay.
can see this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually going through it in the kind of afternoon, and I thought there is a lot of very interesting things around technology which is there. Huh? And this is all what really Suresh's thoughts are. So I thought, let me kind of share with you a little bit. Out of these, the ones which I think, according to me, I want to present, I have really picked up. So this is the background. Obviously, I'll share this on this thing, chat group, and whenever people get an opportunity or they want to, they can always visit that. So let me go back to my presentation. So there's a lot of stuff here. So this is what I kind of shared with you, showed with to you. So before I start, I mean, today the way I am looking at it is that the whole area of sales, marketing, the whole area of operations, really it's all about technology. In fact, many of the companies today define themselves that they are not in any domain. They are actually a technology company. A lot of progressive banking and BFSI companies are saying that we are no longer a banker. We are actually in technology. So that's how it has moved. And I can even say that in the hospitality sector, where really the biggest hospitality guy is actually a guy who doesn't have any rooms of their own, but they are really a platform and using technology. So, and it is happening across sectors, I think, whether it's in the delivery sector, whether it's in the food sector, that's what we are saying. So that, I think, clearly establishes the importance of technology. And for some of the professionals who want to really build a career in whatever domain, the power of technology comes in. And obviously, as academicians and professors, you can add a lot more. um, I hope our outstanding academic institutions in the country are keeping pace to this. I hope they are. Some of the ones which I know of are actually doing it. So I hope your institution also would be doing that. Okay, so the first topic which actually Suresh wrote about, I want to talk of, is really is the digital transformation of business. So today, digital transformation is not just about, um, it's not just about digitization. It's really completely changing the business format and the way you look at business. And I think some of all of you may be aware of, and obviously the academicians would be aware of, that Netflix actually went through a huge, business transformation a few years ago. And once upon a time, they were a different business model. They have completely transformed, and today they are considered one of the companies who have successfully done digital transformation. Of course, in India, they have a lot of other issues. Pricing is a big issue. So in India, the strategy has to be slightly different. But Netflix, to me, if we talk of a case study, more from a learning point of view, clearly Netflix is one. Me being one of the, I was one of the first employees of Reliance Retail, and really I was a CMO of Reliance Retail. So I have a close association with the whole thing, what Reliance is doing. So I think they are trying to do a lot through GeoMart. And whatever I visit the market, I do visit some of our retailers, the FMCG retailers across India now also. And there is a lot of throughput happening through GeoMart. Now, whether that is sustainable, I can't say, but really there is a transformation which is happening. I also put the example of Uber because I think, at least in some of the metros in India and across the world, they have really changed the way people do this short travel. Now, again, how much sustainable profitability, that I'm not getting to. So for me, I think this is one of the key things today. Even legacy businesses no longer have to do digital transformation, but it is a must. And to me, digital transformation is about a lot of technology, uh, ensuring that we fit it with some of the legacy systems. Some of the people, can they really handle it? And then obviously you have to get results out of it. Yeah. So so this is to me one very key tenet really, if you ask me, of technology, digital transformation. I mean, if you have time, I'll also share, some of my personal experiences in the various companies of what kind of digital transformation we could do, and in a very India context, which will make sense. This is again something which is very close to my heart. That's why I have put it on. um, I mean, this is, I have actually once invested on a medical business called dialysis center in Maharashtra. We ran it for some time, and then of course somehow we didn't take it forward. We didn't scale it. So I personally know and professionally know that AI would be a game changer in the whole medical space, and the first place to hit is actually the medical diagnostic space. And I've put in areas like cancer and diabetes, which are considered quite difficult. Cancer is a very specialty one, um, and some of the people across the world and possibly in India are already doing some work on it. Watson does a lot of work which is around how you can use AI in cancer for the early, actually looking at things, and what usually the doctor does as a base, that is done by this AI system, and then the doctor really takes over. And in diabetes, I think also the usage is happening in diabetic retinopathy. In that area there is a lot of usage happening. So according to me, this really can be a game changer, because what it does is it frees up the time of the specialist doctor. So for some of the base level work can actually be done by AI, and then the doctor takes over. So personally, to me, this is really a game changer, and what can do a lot of good for our nation. Then this is the concept of chatbots. Okay. And um, here the thing is, I think all businesses on the digital forum has started using it. The real transition will happen is that if you can build in intelligence in these so-called chatbots or robo assistants or whatever you call them. So that is really what will happen over time. My personal experience as a customer is that many of the domains, including hospitality, including BFSI, including banking, including a little bit of real estate, actually the first part will be taken over by these AI assistants. And then really when there is some high level human interaction required, will actually the sales professionals come in. So it's great from a technology point of view, but sorry to say, there's a flip side to it. Um, a lot of actually the initial sales jobs are under threat because of this. I mean, all of in my banking system today, how many of us are actually talking to the relationship manager? A lot of things are happening not with the relationship manager but with technology and digital. So to me this is important. One thing I think we need to note here is that um, how can we build in a little bit of emotion in this AI assistant? That is really the inflection point. If one can build in emotion, so I think that will be really a technology inflection point. The third one, which I wanted to pick out of really lot of things which Suresh has written and he has propounded, this one I really like, which is essentially the concept of anywhere operation, especially in the field of technology. So, which means that actually your team can operate from anywhere. Great quality security system, great, as we used to call in those days, telepresence. And this might actually morph into even metaverse. It might morph into that. And this is happening. I mean, this is happening right now during pandemic. We have seen where people are operating from anywhere. So I think this is a future. Lot of work will actually move hybrid. Uh, People will spend a lot of time in their area where they want to, their place where you want to. A certain amount of time has to be spent in office because of various reasons. So this again has a lot of technology, a lot of security technology built in, so that some of the company data, how can it be secure? A lot of systems are going on the cloud. In fact, according to me, I being a little bit of a sales marketing people, lot of CRM which previously used to be hosted at the company premises, all CRM will now go on the cloud, because the sales guys want to operate from wherever they want to. So this is the third one, um, I am a very strong votary of drone technology, and especially because now we are all in the middle of a kind of war happening in Ukraine, Russia. So I put war as one of the top ones. But I think drone technology will get used in war, emergency, concept of nano drones, lot of delivery, lot of it in agriculture. There's a concept called ingestible drones which are happening or coming up. And so this is again, according to me, a real big one which I can see, real usage, use case, and happening across the world. Not just in the developed countries, but happening across the world. So that's what I kind of see. um, this of course kind of is the flavor of the season, so I don't need to say too much about it. uh, but I just wanted to say, for the little bit of guidance to some of the young professionals, technology professionals, that what I have understood of metaverse, and I'm doing a little bit of kind of reading and understanding of this whole thing, is that essentially the elements constitute these five things at least, which is AR, VR, cryptocurrency, NFTs, the concept of gaming, and of course social. That's the whole thing where people are interacting with each other. So I think if you break up metaverse, these five things understanding is very important. If anyone wants to operate in the metaverse, organizations, companies get learning and all that. So to me, this is very important. So I thought I'll put it in. Um, this is a very simple one. Of course, this has nothing to do with some of the things, but I think this is very fundamental. So this is at a Indian company level. If anyone is taking over as the chief marketing officer or the chief digital officer, and this is partly what I have done years for years across industries. This is the basic framework. So you cannot create any high level digital ecosystem unless at least these basics are there. So that is one thing which I have learned, across, and this is fairly industry agnostic. So you need to have the vehicle, whether it is called the website or the app, you need to have the vehicle. uh, and moment you have the vehicle, SEO becomes important, and if SEO is important, content strategy becomes very important. So this is where the second one comes. This part is what essentially is what we call paid digital marketing, comes in the third one. And lot of digital marketing is used for lead gen. So one of the fundamental principles of marketing, if I may say here, and I don't know whether I'm going beyond my brief, but uh, as a senior CMO for last many years, let me say that uh, from a client perspective, you have to be very clear that do you want to use your digital marketing for either of the three ways. First is for brand communication. Second one is for brand engagement. Third one is for brand sales. So oftentimes one of the problems which happen from a marketing point of view is that if the marketing team or the people do not have clarity on what they want, they will start with one and end with another one. So that's very important to have that clear clarity, that typically digital marketing can be for these three. And next one is social. We actually talked of social, that we talked of, and even in social, are we using it more as a branding tool, communication tool, engagement tool? That's very important. And um, I have been also associated with a lot of social sector, not just education, but NGOs. So there, the role of social media is again slightly different. And moment you have social media, you have something called ORM, which is online reputation management. As lot of you who have been in kind of management and business, that reputation is very important. And today's in the digital world, it can be a little fragile. So you have to have a system by which you can really manage that online. So it becomes very, very important for any consumer facing brand. Especially it is if it is a consumer service brand, ORM becomes very important. Of course, one of the offshoots also is called influencer marketing and all, which is there. And finally, at the bottom, um, a high quality marketing team or a CMO would always try to see that once I have built this platform, how do we take it to the next level, which is essentially, a little bit of marketing automation. How can we build in? And India, I think, still a little bit of omni-channel will continue, which means digital becomes important, the e-commerce route, but you will still have a little bit of offline. Um, so I think this is what I have in terms of the presentation. I want to show a last one, um, just to little bit possibly. I'll just want to show a last one, which is a very interesting one, but it might little confuse people, but I thought it was important. This is really the landscape of, if you look at digital marketing, this is what the landscape is. And this is only one part I'm talking of, possibly, uh, and this is what really in the middle what Brightcom does. But more importantly, I wanted to tell for our audience, today it's an extremely technical field, digital marketing. You have this side, which is the marketers. So all the brands will be on this side, the green side, and all the publishers will be on the blue side. And we have the whole set of ad networks. We fall in the ad network. That's why Brightcom falls. But it is very specialized, very complicated, and huge scope for innovation in everything. Like for example, I was telling you, so I just wanted to show that, not too complicated, but I thought it is important to show. Okay, so I think that's what I have right now, and I hope I've been able to be on time. I can answer further questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Peshwa. That's a very interesting presentation on the topic, how to view the world, which is emerging with a huge tilt towards digital. I think your presentation is interesting from the point of view, not just how the world is emerging, but what actually Brightway is doing in this. And Brightway, we have learned now, is a very large ad tech organization, 5,000 crore revenue company. It's pretty large in a digital marketing space or the ad tech space that we are. With almost major clients from abroad, this is pretty impressive kind of organization that you guys have built. Congratulations to you and Mr. Suresh Reddy for putting it together. We are very proud of this part that Brightcom is based out of Hyderabad as well.
I just want to make one point here. I'm relatively new to the organization, as in, I've been here for last 2.5 years. But I think you must really give a lot of kudos to Suresh, because he's really built it over 20 years. It's not something which has happened over time. And as a lot of the young people are wanting to get into entrepreneurship, it's a great journey, but it's a very tough journey. I also wanted to give that input. So, I mean, we must give kudos to Suresh, and tell our younger people that it is really worth it to build something, because that's how we leave a legacy and hopefully make a difference to other people's lives. But it's also a long and a tough journey. So, sorry,
Yes, it is a long and a tough journey, as we have witnessed the journey of Mr. Suresh Reddy. Over the last 2 decades, he has built something that we are proud of. And today, the world is largely tech-driven, data-driven, and therefore, the interfacing through digital is touching almost all the domains. There is nothing that is without digital, and therefore, this omnipresent or huge requirement gives us the opportunities from functions like marketing to technology to user interfacing and user experience designs, so on and so forth, while deploying emerging technologies like AI and ML. And therefore, the opportunities are multifold, and therefore, it is a very, very promising future that we have. And Brightcom is right in the middle of it, building it together, piecing it together, and sharing your experiences with us. Thank you very much. I want to just capture some of the Brightcom points that you mentioned very quickly. Is that the digital transformation of business is happening. It is happening across various domains and sectors. One of the Jita Jagta example that you can see is JioMart, that is through Reliance, how it is trying to be digital across various touch points. And Netflix is an organization that has moved completely from movie rental business, which is offline, to OTT, which is one of the largest OTT platforms across the world, entertaining and reaching out to you in your living rooms, and Uber, a cab hailing platform without actually owning one cab, not even a cab. So the transformation and disruption that's been happening, these are the common man examples, and therefore we understand it. And AI is becoming a game changer, not just in one space, but in many spaces. One of them that the speaker has highlighted is the medical diagnostic space, especially in diabetes and cancer, diabetes retinopathy, to be very specific about it. And it is going to free up the space of the specialists in all these sectors. Here in case, it is going to free up the space, time and space of the expert doctors, so that they can attend to the most important aspects. Chatbots and AI assistants are rising in various sectors and domains like BFSI, banking, real estate, to start with. This digital interfacing is going to go on and increase multifold. It is not going to come down. But the challenge, as the speaker has highlighted, is how do we build in emotions into this? That will be the technology inflection point. That's a very, very interesting observation. Anywhere operations, because of this technology, because the pandemic has accelerated our usage of this technology, I think anywhere technology has come into operations. We are seeing remote working, we are seeing people operating from anywhere. Hybrid learning and teaching, hybrid working with organizations is a reality right in front of our eyes that has unfolded. So this is very good, and several technologies are built into it, like securities, and majority of the functions are moving to cloud now, including the CRM. Drone technology is emerging both in war and peace, as we have seen. Yeah, we are in a theater of war right now while we talk. Metaverse is no longer a fiction. It is going to be a reality. And so to say, that Metaverse is going to be a reality. The elements that are going to drive up Metaverse into reality is augmented reality and virtual reality and cryptocurrency, and also non-fungible tokens based on blockchain technologies, gaming, and social being a very big thing. Everyone is eagerly waiting to understand what is this Metaverse is going to be. Some of the questions I'm sure will be asked as part of the Q&A. The digital ecosystem creation is taking place through the experience of the speaker. He said fundamentals and basics will have to build in terms of webs, app, through your website or your app. Content and SEO has to be done, lead generation, performance engines have to be established, social media has to be rightly used, and online reputation management is something which we need to use. Digital marketing clarity is not there, therefore there are confusions and on the expectations of the results of digital marketing. Either use it for communication, or use it for engagement, or use it for sales, both whether it is social or in terms of performance itself. And the various other aspects that are built into this digital disruption, which is affecting our various aspects of business and life. Video analytics is going to be a very, very big thing according to the speaker. AI and ML is going to drive video analytics. We are going to see these things happening in each and every segment and sector that we are going to be part of. That's a fantastic landscape covered by Mr. Peshwa. Thank you very much, sir. And now I'll quickly, without much ado, request my esteemed colleague, Professor Prasad, to start the Q&A. And we will have these questions. These questions are collected from the audience at the time of registration. We bucket it into separate clusters, and then we go sequentially on that. We'll alternate between myself and Professor Prasad. Welcome, Professor Prasad. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. The presentation has given me more questions, which are kind of, in a manner of speaking, there in the original intent and also embedded in the questions that people have asked. As usual, the first set is about the entrepreneur. So you'll have to speak on his behalf here. And, the question is basically, see in the presentation, there's quite a bit of terrain which is covered, including digital transformation of business, not just digital marketing. So, Mr. Suresh Reddy seems to have written about it. So there are a lot of things working on his mind. So if you have to look at his motivation when he started 20 years back, the journey that he's covered, and he's talking about digital transformation of business. So how do you traverse this journey? What has motivated him? What are the steps in the journey that he has taken which can help a lot of the audience who perhaps want to be entrepreneurs, want to get into digital, this kind of space. How would you articulate that?
Sure. I mean, I don't know whether it is fair for me to speak a bit on behalf of Suresh, but I'll try to do whatever I can. And so I mean, put it with a little bit of, some of it may be actually his viewpoint, some of it may not be his viewpoint also. So please take it with that. Why I'm saying this is that, if you look at Suresh's journey after his impeccable background in terms of his engineering at IIT, and then he's gone done his MS, and he was in US for a long time, and he quickly he was one of the early entrepreneurs, I think 22 years ago or something like that. He was one of the early entrepreneurs. That time entrepreneurship was really not the flavor. Today, if you see among a lot of young people, they actually want to become entrepreneurs, not really take up a job. So I think that is one of the key distinct things about Suresh, which I really appreciate. He started really early on. So that ability to start early on is very important, according to me. That's one. And if you see, if you just put Suresh and myself, I have been a corporate animal, as in guy. So I've been more in corporate. I've also been an entrepreneur, but for a shorter period. So I think that's very important, that ability to start early. That's one. The second real big one, which I take out as a learning, and of very successful entrepreneurs, is that ability to take the huge risk. And I don't want to get into too much of details about Suresh and Brightcom as a group, but really that ability to take that leap of faith and leap, if I remember correctly, and I have to look at the data, when the group was around maybe 10 or 15 million dollars revenue, they actually went into wanting to acquire companies of 30-40 million dollars. So that ability, huh, that's very important. And this I mean, I know, of course, Suresh for a long time, and I've seen in the group that ability to take that big risk. And I have worked for a fairly long time with Reliance also, and fairly directly with MDA, Mane Mukesh Bhai, as we call him. Huh? Okay. He also brings in that ability to take that huge leap, of today it is 100, but I'm actually wanting to become 1,000, in whichever field he is in. So this is another thing of entrepreneurs, that ability to do that is very important. But the third one, which again, I don't know how much that has been in Suresh. I think it has been, because I have, I have met him, and I've interacted with him long time before. Is that even when the little bit of the chips are down, as an entrepreneur, you cannot go down. You have to be up. That's another very important trait, and that's how entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs differentiate each other. uh, a person who is in a corporate role, who is in a salaried job, that person, if the company is not doing well, can actually exit, at least in junior levels. It may not happen at senior levels, but you can exit, look for something. But an entrepreneur cannot, and it is more important when the chips are down. So I think these are some of the traits which I've very strongly noticed in Suresh, and these are some of the learnings, I think, which some of the younger professionals may want to take back. you know Even when the chips are down, really having that ability to fight back, keeping the motivation and that strength up, and that positivity up, and fighting back. Um, and I think the final one is very important, is that ability to see beyond. So if you just think of things today, then really you can't build a high valuation business. You have to look at things which don't exist today, the need solutions, like today. And that is one of the things I think Suresh to some extent has done. He has started investing on AI ML and technology much before other people were wanted to do or did do that. Huh. So you have to be always ahead of the thing. Like in India, one of the things I personally feel is that if you are actually investing on vernacular content, all the young people who are there in the audience, that's the future. Then voice will become very important. According to me, the concept of audio, digital audio and voice will become very important. So people are not just doing things on the web, but as they are watching other or hearing other audio things, they will do things. So I think so ability to look into the future things is another thing of an entrepreneur. So I don't know whether I have been able to answer everything, but I've given a little bit of my viewpoints with the perspective of what I've seen, Suresh, very closely.
Excellent. I just wanted to ask another question. Unlike a lot of digital marketing agencies or ad tech space, it's a global firm.
Yeah.
I mean, and that too operating out of a place like Hyderabad with a lot of network around. So, for potential entrepreneurs, what are the points there that you would like to bring in? Getting into global space.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I was speaking somewhere else in one of the, I think, undergrad colleges or somewhere. And they were telling me that I think, so they said, what are the various things which you see in the post pandemic world happening? And the first point I said was actually, today there is nothing called a country, it's everything is global. So your products and services are actually global. So you, as an entrepreneur, you cannot think that you are trying to service the one market. So if you start thinking that, it will automatically happen. And especially if people are in the tech space, tech is all global. Number one. Number two is, uh, we have an advantage in tech, and I think to some extent Hyderabad has and India has. Uh, it has what is called the the GI tag of high tech. There is something called competitive advantage of nations. Like if you buy a wine, it is always a French wine. If it was a car, it used to be American car 100 years ago. Now it is all used to be Japanese car. If it is, so there are some places. So somehow in IT and tech, India has a little bit of an advantage. So and so all the entrepreneurs can capitalize on that. Yeah. So according to me, think global. There's nothing called local, and build on the India advantage in tech.
I think which he has beautifully done long back. I mean, though some of these things are fairly more recent, I think he's done it beautifully in a very different space where India may not be known so much for technology, mark tech or ad tech kind of stuff.
Suresh has done it where really no one knew ad tech. Now at least some people are knowing because of digital marketing. They're knowing, but at that time no one knew.
The next set of questions are related to the potential of ad tech space.
Okay.
For potential entrepreneurs. So the first is digital marketing, advertising versus TV, print media. How is the space going? How are the relative spaces going? This is the first question.
Okay. So I don't know. Actually, I made a comment on LinkedIn in my personal capacity, based on the latest advertising spend reports. So based on that, last year, actually the whole digital advertising pie in India has grown to, I think, as much as 35% odd. So number one still is TV at 42%, but TV is coming down, and clearly the digital part is going up. So if you ask me my personal crystal gazing, this is more as a senior CMO, not so much anything to do with Brightcom really, because but as a senior CMO, I think India clearly digital will become number one and will become 50%. And by the way, all the countries, UK and all, that has happened long time ago. Okay. And possibly, according to me, some of the places which will get a little bit of hit, I think, are outdoor, which there is a lot of things that might come down. Normal TV will get a hit, but India still there will be some audience for normal TV, because both will continue for some time, I think. So, and in digital, there's a huge opportunity. And one of the things in India is that whatever digital consumption is happening, I think 75% or more is actually mobile phone. So it's not desktop only, it's more of mobile. um, Very strong requirement for vernacular content. Not too many people are working on it. And very interesting things, and I had some research data, so I was looking. uh, you will think that mobile phone and digital internet penetration, actually in the rural farmers the internet penetration is equal to that in urban India. Urban India is something like 70, rural is 50. But if you look at the rural farmers, that segment it is 70. So India has lot of these interesting things. In fact, I know quite a few companies in Hyderabad, I think, are trying to do things in agri-tech. Because um, I've been involved in some of the mentoring things with T Hub. So that's how I know. So there are already people who are taking the step in T Hub. Lot of services which can get organized are the areas in which the startups and the entrepreneurs can focus on. Because essentially, moment you what I gave that example of Uber, you are basically balancing supply demand through a more efficient manner. So there are a lot of opportunities like that for young India. That's what I think. I wish we were born 30, 40 years later. That's what I keep on telling my son and daughter. Both of them have just started their career. So
And what kind of size does the space look like? Somebody said that, Amazon did about 31 billion in revenue from digital ads in 2021. And
yeah.
but if you look at the space, if you take the global size and the Indian size, what does the size look like?
No, I have to look at the numbers. I don't remember the numbers, but essentially, I think we are around, if I've seen advertising, if I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me, we are a 60,000 crore uh, annual advertising market in India. This is what I think, but I have to look at the numbers. So please don't quote me. I don't remember. But what I'm saying is that digital actually can become 50% of it. That's what I'm looking at. Huh? Okay. So, but like I said, that if anyone is wanting to launch a tech product, it is not India, it is across the world. I was giving you that thing of video analytics will become very important. And as a consumer, you are seeing it. Today, depending on what you are watching on the, we call it connected TV. Because now most of the TV, I'm not watching actually the TV programs. I'm actually seeing from the net, whatever, whether it's a Netflix or whether it's a YouTube or something. That's what I'm seeing on my TV really. So today, based on the user habits and viewership, the advertising is getting thrown to me. So there's a lot of analytics which goes into. In fact, I don't know whether you have noticed that 3 4 years ago it used to be only one kind of advertising. Today they actually know all the four members who are connected with on that same internet IP. They are throwing for all four. So that intelligence has been built in, that it's not only a one person watching, but there are four members or two members of the family. And if all of them are connected, the ads will be for all of them, not just for one. So a huge amount of intelligence is coming in, according to me.
Excellent. Another question is about game-changing technologies into the future. You did mention about video analytics, and to some
Yeah.
extent, in the business transformation, you looked at business transformation. You talked about AI, ML. But if you take ad tech in particular, and into the future, which are the for potential entrepreneurs or career makers, which are those segments apart from video analytics where you think people should invest their time?
No, it's a very difficult question, because if it was so easy, then I would have invested money in that. Okay, so it's not that easy to say what the future is. But broadly, according to me, video is a big area. Okay, and especially video analytics. The second one, according to me, is digital audio. According to me, will become big, because digital audio has an advantage that audio is something which you can do uh, as a secondary thing. So it is a subliminal media, and if people are driving, they can do. So according to me, that is one area which will become big. Now within audio, most of it used to be music, gaming, games, and entertainment. But my personal hunch is that even specialized niche will become very big, which means the podcasts will become very big. Because what is happening is people are wanting to consume more specialized information, not general only. Like I will be interested in anything to do with marketing, ad tech, media, a little bit of hospitality, education. These are the few sectors I would like to consume a lot. And of course, my personal favorites, which are usually food and travel. Okay. So anything which is so specialized, podcast and audio will become, according to me, very important. So these are the two areas which I can immediately think of.
I think that also, it is broad and it also is indicative of perhaps where people should be able to explore. The next question is about, you moved from, in the presentation, you looked at digital marketing, looked at digital transformation. For the benefit of the audience, there is this confusion always about digitalization, digital transformation. People, they mix it up. So if you, from the examples that you have given, if you take the case of just for the purpose of the understanding of the audience, so that they understand digital transformation vis-a-vis these other two a bit more completely. So if you can take one of the cases that you mentioned, say medical diagnostics, and then explain it as a case, a small caselet that people can understand what digital transformation actually implies.
Yeah, no, see, medical diagnostics is a very cutting edge one, but let me still give you some example. See, digitization is very simple. Anything instead of being in a physical form, you have in a digital form. So in the medical field, there is something called EMR, electronic medical records. That is simple digitization. In fact, even that is a very big market in India. And let me share with you a personal example, a little personal. One of my close family members had cancer, and I'm purposely not saying who, because it's a public forum. huh, uh, and I have actually gone through the cancer fight, and finally the person is fine now. Okay. Now, in that whole cancer journey of a year, because it usually takes 1 year for that process of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, operations, and all that, we have to keep lots of records of all these things. We didn't have. So what I did was I simply created a huge Google Drive in which everything was kept. And if any doctor wants to see date wise, one can see. So this is digitization at a very simplest level. I think even this has a huge opportunity in India. According to me, not there. And so if the customer, or the patient can have it, then he can give it to different people, different systems. So this is digitization explained in a very simple, how do I say, in a very theoretical manner, classroom type, I have explained. Okay. Now next one is called digital transformation, uh, which essentially means what you are doing in a certain way, you are doing in a different manner. So uh, I'll give an example from my company, Sterling Holidays, which I have actually, I think we have done a digital transformation, which is that previously all the lead funnel used to be done in a very informal Excel sheet manner. And then we actually moved to using the cutting edge, the whole, we implemented salesforce.com. Okay, so that is really digital transformation. And for that, it is not just usage of Salesforce. The whole 500 sales team members had to be trained how to use it and how to get value out of it. That's a long process. Huge mindset change, because a lot of people, unfortunately, are not digitally savvy. See, whole of India is not like Hyderabad and Chennai. Okay, where people are little more digitally savvy. A lot of them come from tech backgrounds and engineering backgrounds. That's not the case. So that is really the digital transformation of the company. And the next step is, which I talked of in the case of medical records, where actually you have high-end AI/ML, where the person is able to see a PET scan report. Today, the way the cancer specialist does, the top end cancer specialist can see the PET scan report and then say, I think they are in grade 1 stage 3 or grade 3 stage 3. This will get built by the AIML, who will actually give the first level of report, which will say that it looks like it's grade 1 grade 3. Then the doctor will oversee it initially. So that is really the end, top end of digital transformation, if you may call. So I've tried to give you 3 examples such that the audience understands the difference between digitization, digital transformation, and really cutting edge AI. And cutting edge AI can help in some of even the expert jobs. And cancer consultant is one of the most expert jobs, if you call. They look at it, and all the radiologists and all of them. So I think that is going to happen, and it's already happening. Watson is working on it very strongly. I have a lot of my batchmates who are actually in this field in US, so I could get a little bit of information. I think our must be your also some of the IT batchmates would be in this. I have some of my KGP batchmates in this, in the healthcare tech, health tech, which is very big. So
Yes, I think we've heard about surgeons who are conducting the operation, and when they conduct the operation, and when the camera is inside the place where they conduct the operation, they get feedback about what's been happening with other cases, and then therefore what they should do. I mean, similar to what you said.
yeah, absolutely. It's happening real time also, and it's a surgeon's job is a very tough job.
So excellent. I think you've clarified that with very good examples, and I think those are the kind of examples that people need to understand what actually it entails, and
Yeah,
that there are opportunities at all levels, even if you're
yeah,
looking at taking an entrepreneurial view of that.
right.
I think I'll end at this stage as another cluster that I'll hand over the speaker to Mr. Sudhakar.
Thank you very much, Professor Prasad. We are always limited by the constraints of time. When the topic is just at the end of the first cluster, getting so much interested, and questions are still dropping in the chat box. So I don't know how to handle it, but I request the speaker to actually stay put and kindly bear with us and answer some of the important questions. Some of the questions I will try and skip, but there are more interesting ones even in the questions actually. So these need responses from you. Thank you, sir. The first question is, how has Brightcom Group positioned itself? What has been its performance and what are its plans? Maybe in terms of share price in the next 2 years, what are the projections and also the revenue projections?
Yeah. So, frankly, as management, we never look at the share price. Share price is an outcome. So, I don't want to comment anything on the share price. But I kind of told you that, we are kind of giving a guidance that we will be reaching the 5,000 crore level. That's what I said in terms of revenue. And I think our PAT will also reach around 1,000 crore level, which is, it's a fairly, strong, robust one. uh, I think, if I'm not mistaken, EBITDA levels will be around 30%, uh, give and take something. So,
Fair enough. Yeah, I think without wanting to comment on that, you have given us the most important indicators: PAT reaching a level of 1,000 crores and EBITDA 30%. So that's interesting. Already you have projected revenue to be 5,000 crores. Uh, Sir, what's been your strategy with digital audio acquisitions? So we have read this thing in the news recently, but what's been the actual strategy of your organization behind this acquisition?
no, I mean, we are looking at various parties and what makes sense for the company. I think that's what we will look at. And I think as a company, Suresh has been talking that we believe very strongly that this is one really future revenue stream, profitable revenue stream. So that's what it is. And initially, we are starting with, I think, North America, because that's where the business is really a little mature, you know. And according to us, across the world, it will get into that. I think there are a lot of synergies with, like you have video, web programmatic, there'll be audio programmatic also. That's what is happening. you know so there will be a lot of synergies in the future between. So, and for the clients it becomes easier because they have one kind of network which can provide all forms of different forms of media vehicles. So from a client's point of view also it becomes easier, because finally we want to kind of be positive with the clients and positive with the publishers. That's what we want to be. That's what we are in the middle. So if it makes sense for both, then the business will do well. So I
Okay.
think that's broadly it is.
Great, great, fantastic. I think the grid that which you have shown in the last slide is putting yourself in between the people and the marketers. And as a marketer, as an ad network, you would like to have all the opportunities for the marketers to have, and the synergies are working well in the long term. Absolutely fine. And that is the strategy behind acquisition of digital audio properties. So the next question is, how will Media Mint acquisition help Brightcom Group growth for the next 5 years? Any comment on that?
No, frankly, I don't want to give too much of an official comment. Whatever I know, I think it's a very, a good quality company, good quality people, um, and huge revenue upside. That's what I think. But really, I mean, at this stage, I don't think any official comment I would like to give. I think whatever I know, good quality people, good strong revenue streams, good quality clients, opportunity of growth. That's what I think. Huh. So I don't really want to comment what will. I think it's a great, kind of asset with us and part of the group.
Fine, sir. Fine. Thank you very much. The next question is a strategy kind of question. So, uh, what is the inherent strength of Brightcom Group that is probably like others have got, like Google, Microsoft, SAP has got? What is the inherent strength of BCG? And why do you think Brightcom will survive for the next 3 decades? Is it built to last? That's the question.
No, very good question. I think very incisive question. Um, so I think there are three things which I can think of. Okay, first thing is that the way I think it's a board run company, fairly professional management, and if you see across the world, there's a fair amount of uh, autonomy given to each of the group companies across the world. So I think that's one of the ways, very, if I may use the word, a very federal structure. That's what helps, because these are very local businesses. So that is one. Second is, I think, unlike other media companies, we are a very much a technology company. So that's very important. Huh? So because as we are talking today, technology is a bulwark of anything which is to happen. And the third one, I think, this is a little bit of my understanding of Brightcom DNA, is that we are constantly innovating and evolving. So we are not one of those groups which I think, want to stick to one simple thing. We are constantly innovating. And in the technology space, that is very important. And you see some of the even very, very big global giants also has to change, pivot, innovate. They have to do that. So I think this is, so to me, these are the three things which are, I think, are the inherent strengths. This is the way I look at it. And of course,
Great,
good
great. I think
quality
that's
management, leadership, promoters, that's also important. The quality is important. So that's what I think. But that I can't talk too much. All of you have to
very interestingly put as three important reasons why it has got an inherent strength. So fantastic. I think there are a lot of takeaways for many entrepreneurs and budding leaders out there. So the next question is from the chat box, and that is, what do you think would be the future of live commerce? That is live streaming plus e-commerce. Is it a fad or it's going to stay here for long?
Yeah, in technology things, it's very difficult to say whether it's a fad or not. No one can predict. But according to me, there will be certain categories where this will become very important. So I think it will be things which are a little, which are related to your fashion category, related to a little bit of impulse purchase. These are important. Huh? So I think it will be important. So I don't think it will be less important. How important I cannot say. Huh? Mm, but
Right.
I that's the way I look at it.
Right, right. I'm thankful to the viewpoint that you have shared. So one more associated question from the chat box is how blocking of third-party cookies affects the ad tech industry?
Um, no, I mean, again, difficult to say, but I don't think there's a big problem because, see, always our philosophy has been that data you see is true data, not spurious data. So I think that way there will be a way of reaching out to the consumer. So okay, so because there will be a lot of data which is spurious data. So we as a network, we believe that the true data is what we want to present to the publisher and the client both, so that the true data comes. So I don't know. So it's difficult to say. For me, as long as things are happening true, I'm thinking of that. So I don't want to comment really further on this.
Okay. So the next question is from the client perspective, client point of view, or a marketer point of view.
Yeah.
Is there a right time to invest in digital marketing, especially in the context of India and the businesses that are generally traditional now are going digital? As per the context of this discussion, everything is becoming digital, and digital marketing is a very important consumption. So, at what stage is the right stage to invest in digital marketing?
No, so that will depend on the nature of the business. Suppose you are a startup, you should start digital only. Okay, a startup as in a new business or a fledgling business, you should not think non-digital. Suppose you are a legacy business, then you have to have your legacy business and then have a new form of online business and then do digital marketing for both. So it will depend on that. But one caveat which I want to say to the slightly bigger people means I say mid-sized people, if you are above 200 300 crores, which is that it's actually not about doing digital marketing, but there has to be a little bit of management clarity as to what is the outcome out of it. Oftentimes people do it more because everyone is doing, let me do it.
Okay.
So outcome is important. So one of the things may be that most of my consumers today are not in the offline media, so I have to do digital. That is one. Second might be that I want to build my brand through this only, the communication through this only, because it's much easier to do, video, all that is much easier. So third might be that younger audience, I want to engage with them this way. So management has to be a little clear on why.
Great. So it is largely driven by where the TG is actually native, and cost considerations the management will have to be clear about. Therefore, the necessities will be drawn out of these two considerations, and accordingly the strategy will be adopted.
Yeah, and also why you want to do.
Yes.
Sometimes just might be that we would like to do it. That's also a reason, but there has to be a clarity. And I always say that invest a little bit on getting the strategy right rather than immediately getting into just the execution. That's what I keep on saying. That
this is a very valuable takeaway. Invest
yeah,
more on getting the strategy right rather than on execution. Execution is anyway a follow through, but a lot of people actually don't focus on strategy, and therefore any amount of expenditure on execution and metrics and mechanics is not going to take us farther. So strategy is extremely important. That comes from President Group Strategy of Brightcom. So thank you very much for that. So one last question before I hand it over to your friend, Professor Prasad, is how do you think this digital transformation could bring in emotions in a HR department or Department of Human Resource Management?
No, I think it's very important. In fact, I don't know whether you know, I have co-founded a company called growthshift.com, which is about HR and executive mentoring. Okay. So to me, and this is an idea which I had in 2014, but that time when I thought virtual, it did not happen. So we launched it in 2019-20. Okay, so see, the way I look at it is that HR is one of the very key functions today. Why? Because there is a little bit of good quality talent is not available. So that is one. Second is the modern generation wants to balance work and non-work. So that is very important. It is not like the previous generation where we are 24/7 with the company. That's no longer the case. The modern workforce wants to balance. That's number two. And number three is that, in this COVID world, oftentimes you are working from far away. How do you keep them engaged? So to me, uh, actually digital or this whole thing will become very important in HR. Like I'll give you an example. One of the NGOs which I kind of consulted in some manner. So I told them that do not recruit through only consultants, HR executive search, recruit through LinkedIn. The reason is it is not about the recruitment, but when you do the recruitment, the whole brand imagery goes up, people get to know about it. So therefore they had to actually ensure that the HR team is also a little bit trained on digital.
Oh,
So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. The realities are changing, and your suggestion to that organization which you are consulting to do recruitment on LinkedIn is very interesting. In the offline world, ICFAI has done that. We used to advertise in newspaper about our recruitments, and that has actually plowed back a lot of dividends in terms of visibility, in terms of making it a happening place. I think the one of the best case studies that we can think of with respect to education as an industry is using print to the hilt by actually not spending large sums, but cleverly spending with the iterative process, discovering the right size and the right price to spend, and still maintain to have that buzz among the target groups that this is a happening place. A lot of books are being written, intellectual capital is being built. It is a great institution, so on and so forth. And this has happened maybe 20 years back, 25 years back, that we are talking
I'm
about.
also talking of this example few years back.
Yes.
And by the way, for many of the publishing houses, media houses like Times of India, the biggest category is actually education, real estate and education. I think these are the two biggest categories.
Yeah, real
So
estate, education, and healthcare. These are
and
biggest
healthcare. Yeah,
categories.
that's
Thank
what
you,
I think.
sir. Thank you very much. I will request Professor Prasad to come in for the next cluster, and after that, I will wrap it up. We are already at 9 p.m., but yes, I think we can still take a few questions with permission of Mr. Peshwa Acharya. Over to you,
Okay.
Professor Prasad.
So Peshwa, I am just going to relate to one of the responses you have given in terms of this brand communication, brand engagement, brand sales, and I'm connecting it to the fact that to get your strategy right. Now let me put a situation. I mean, suppose we would like tech, uh, digital marketing to give us sales and not just brand communication and brand engagement. So, what are the kind of guidelines that you would put? I mean, we can have assumptions about various sectors, but what kind of guidelines would you want if you want to get sales without feet on street?
Yeah, no. So what happens is in that case, your whole focus is only on creation of the funnel. So then whole digital marketing is on funnel creation. So when I was, let's say, the chief business officer for that education group, I was not there for too long for other reasons because I joined Brightcom. But when I was there, so so the whole digital marketing thing was focused on one thing. At the top you get quality leads. Second, the quality leads have to be transformed into through phone calls, because India still that is important, the appointment of meetings. And that at the bottom of the funnel is really at that time, without meeting no one will write a check for their kid. So it has to be a meeting. Now the meeting can be face to face, which was pre COVID. Now it can be virtual. So I'm saying this clarity is very important. Huh. Then you will not spend money on other things, because digital is not just funnel, it is a lot of other things. But in order to get the top of the funnel, you might still have to spend on good quality content. Otherwise, credibility of that will not be there. The brand credibility will not be built. So it's a combination of factors, and that is really the role of the CMO stroke CBO. And there has been no is no software which has been created on this. I am thinking of creating a software, but I'm not getting time. Unlike Tally, which has been created, which to some extent takes the accounting work out of the CFO. But there is no software which takes this from the CMO, to my knowledge. Ah. So how much exactly the balance between that is but today metrics are available. So for example, during the COVID time, this education group, I think I was able to reduce my cost of quality lead from 100 rupees to 75 rupees. Second is my percentage of leads which used to come through digital was 33%, but during this pandemic time, I increased it to 70%. So you can do that. I mean, it all depends on how where you spend and all that. A lot of paradigm shift in the mind is required, because especially for businesses which exist, if they have been spending, like Dr. Rao said, that on print, if they have been spending X percentage every year, now to say that no, let's not spend on the X, let's spend on digital, there's a lot of paradigm shift. So therefore the chairman will tell the CMO, so then you risk your neck and then do it. That's a different story, but
I think you're talking very, very practically.
yeah.
We are
Because
able to see that.
yeah, because I've been in businesses, so I know
Yeah.
how it operates in India. But having said that, it is changing and lots can be done. I mean, what is according to me important, which I tell the young professionals, is have clarity and have honesty of purpose. Huh. So- the outcome oftentimes can't be done, but if there is clarity and honesty, more or less the probability of success is very high.
I think this at the lead stage, and people who do callings and call centers. There's a lot of activity taking place.
Yeah.
How much of activity is taking place at the real bottom end? I mean, you mentioned that yes, it is feet on street or somebody picking up a meeting. Now you convert it into a virtual meeting, but how much of actual conversion is taking place at that end of the funnel from your experience?
No, I mean, it's happening. The real estate guys are doing a lot of stuff. They are, so they are doing where, but I don't think there is an opportunity for education to actually have a software which is a virtual software for education conversion. It's not there. It's a air meet equivalent for education with some intelligence built in, where
I
you can
think
actually show the school. Because I don't know about ICFAI, because I've not gone, but for a school, K-12 school, you have to show the infrastructure, you have to show the previous records, you have to show the non-academic development of kids, and a little bit of a legacy. These are the few attributes. So if that attributes can be shown virtually through AR, VR or whatever, then you have done your job. So I'm giving a lot of business ideas to you.
no, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think you have constructed and built, what is to be done.
I will interfere here with your permission. So we use virtual reality for storytelling about legacy, about track record and facilities, and as well as experience of a walkthrough. So we do it across all the campuses, and we make sure that most of the parents and visitors have a seamless entry into the university and its track record, and understand a little bit about it. So I thought I'll clarify this.
No,
Thank you.
great. I mean, I think you have always been in the cutting edge. But what I'm saying is general education, there's still lots to be done. Like in real estate, still lots to be done. They are using all these film shims and all that, but the expectation of the consumer is very high. I am buying a flat which is on the 30th floor, which is, let's say, sea facing in Bandra. Now you are right now, there is nothing. It will come up in 5 years. I am supposed to take payment for that. So ideally you should show me what the view from that 30th floor will be, and it is very much possible to do with a drone with audio built in, and you actually see it. But again, if you look at it, not too many real estate fellows are doing it. Similarly, for example, education, one of the products which we have, and again I am doing a little bit of plug, one of my this thing, growth shift company is very important is that there is a huge amount of attrition which happens for the management trainees in the first 1 or 18 months, 12 months to 18 months, even from the best of institutes, you know, and you need a mentoring to prevent that attrition, because usually the companies go quite a bit to hire from these institutes, and there's a lot of bidding war which is there at the hiring stage. So what do you do about it? Can you do something? So I'm saying that really there are a lot of product opportunities even in education.
Excellent. I think, you have spoken about real estate, and we are seeing a lot of conversion where the value of the product is on the lower side. But there are a lot of sectors where the value of the product is pretty high. And I think, what you've said in that there is that scope to leverage what you've said and see how to design it and then configure it in, so that it happens virtually and also beyond what we are currently doing. I think that exists in a lot of sectors, that kind of thing. Of course, education is one of them, but I think it does exist in a lot of sectors. And that conversion point is something which if it picks up, I think the whole thing will increase far beyond, because print or TV doesn't have a say in conversion. If you come to tech, martech or adtech, if it gets into a say in conversion, then the pie completely changes.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, the ultimate form is if you are able to get him to start using your app in some way, which an education, a real estate fellow can do it because it's a high ticket item.
Yes.
Okay, so moment you get into the process, actually have an app. Similarly, education have an app, because the app is nothing but a lasso around your face. That's the difference. So I mean, the thinking is, that's why I said we have technology, the strategy and technology. If it can come together, I think huge amount of value addition can happen.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think, and that's the most valuable point for a lot of people in this particular session, beyond the
Yeah.
technology and beyond the
Yeah, and I'll also tell you, Prasad, why it happens. I'll tell you, because I've been working with a lot of people and very smart young people, is that typically the knowledge or the expertise of a tech person and an expertise of a strategy business person, usually these are two different people. It is never the same person. That's unfortunately the way. It's only very few places that these people at senior levels converge.
absolutely.
So
I have one question to Professor Prasad, with your permission.
yes, sir.
Professor Prasad, you have been handling heavy duty assignments at ICFAI yourself over the last at least 2 decades. You've handled one of the most challenging assignments, like heading very close to 170 business schools located pan-India with different target groups and different segments all in one. And so that is the first point. Second point is many other things in between, but the latest one that you're handling is the online MBA program, which you crafted yourself and launched, and you are the mentor for the entire program. As the CEO of the then largest conglomeration of business schools under one umbrella, to a new age product called online MBA program, what has been your experiences, if you can capture for the benefit? Because this itself is a case study, and there are different worlds in this, totally offline worlds, totally digital worlds. And how have we traveled the distance from then to now, Professor Prasad?
I think the most central point is that one needs to understand one's learners. Typically, education in India and the kind of premium schools we come from, I mean, there is always that, learning is meant only for, you need to have it in you, you need to have that intelligence. But actually, it is not that. So if you look at, a lot of kids watching ads, watching cricket, they have picked up, they know the rules. I mean, they know what to do. They'll give you jnana. And where did they pick it up from? They didn't pick it up from a book. They picked it up because they were interested and they saw a lot of stuff. And so it was self-driven. So the moment one is able to understand your learner's profile and then see what is value to them, and you're not disturbed by what others say education is, quality is, that you need to have, so many publications. That's fine. I mean, that's fine for that particular kind of institution and that kind of learner profile, and that's needed for society. There's absolutely no dispute on that. But when you're talking about learning at scale, at mass, and for large segments of people, earlier that was, what we talked about earlier was those who are freshers or max 1 or 2 years experience, campus kind of programs. But here we're talking about the working executive, where continuing education has become extremely important. And here the entire beauty of it is if you're able to capture their experience and help them map it to the conceptual framework that an MBA is all about. Finally, from all the premium schools that we come, you ask our batchmates, they keep saying, we didn't learn. That is not where we learned. We learned on the field. But that's a very sad story. If the learning that we went through is able to put that filter in the middle by which you can take your experience and put it into conceptual framework, you'll remember that far more, and you'll remember the important ones, because all that you learn in the MBA may not be important. But for each of us, depending on the context, certain things are important. So I think if that central principle is understood and we are able to convert experiences into frameworks, that's when it becomes learning. That's when there is a framework in the mind, some abstraction in the mind. And if that happens and gets reinforced, you are helping the person, what they call learning to learn. Because once you exit the B school, it's your learning to learn cycle which you have inherited or which you have picked up from your education, and which is why the good institutions stand out, because they help you to do this. The premium institutions help you learning to learn. So if you're able to do that in your program should become powerful one day, irrespective of the target audience.
Right, absolutely. Well said. Well said.
Fantastic.
In fact, even within the same cohort, I have sometimes seen some people have that curiosity in the mind, some people lost it. And sorry to say, a lot of older people of our age have actually lost it. Huh? So, and the people who have not hopefully are successful and always adding some value back to society.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, Professor Prasad, for that response. You have any more questions to Mr. Peshwa? So we'll take.
I think there's one important question, and it's come from a large number of people, and this is the impact of the metaverse on digital marketing ad tech sector. It was touched upon briefly, but I think that question people want to understand a bit more so that they can position themselves, whether enterprises or whether for careers.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have too much of I am also in a learning phase for metaverse. So I really don't have, but what I'm seeing is that I can only see metaverse, the opportunity of ad tech revenues going up, because that becomes another vehicle where people have to place their advertising and products and everything. So, but this is at a very general level. I have not really done a deep dive as to what it is, but from a career point of view, whatever I have learned, and I have a little bit I've learned within the company, a little bit I keep on learning from my younger generation. Now today I learn a lot from my son and daughter, and younger generation and all. So what I have learned is these 5 elements which I said: AR/VR, the NFT, cryptocurrency, and your social media and gaming. I think people should try to learn these elements, and then automatically they'll be prepared for the metaverse universe. This is what I think. And number 2 is that India US might be slightly different, because one of the things of metaverse universe is also to have the right hardware. So in India, that is a little behind. Personally, in a pre-metaverse world, around 5-6 years ago, I tried to use Oculus for Sterling Holidays in the marketing sales process, but we were not successful. Hardware was there, but the ability to use the hardware was not there. And this was pre-metaverse. This is in 2014-15. I actually got Oculus and we did a trial run, and I wanted to do things, but it was not very successful. So India has this hardware gap, whereas in US the hardware gap is not there. The quality of the machines and this thing is all very much better. So that is where a little bit of I see that thing is there. But I think for younger people, it's more important to understand the 5 elements we must learn and know. So I don't know whether I have.
Beginning. Yeah. I think that's a good beginning, first step. And you have been very transparent in saying, the size of this and how it will emerge over a period of time. It's not, it's not as predictable.
Yeah.
I think what you mentioned about Oculus is also a very interesting example, because I think right now they're also, I'm not able to get the name of this, there's this thrill games, right? Is it right, Sudhakar? I think they've got AR, VR simulation
Yes.
kind of thing, which is there, and then it's been gamified. And I think it's got a lot of what you're saying. And therefore, what it means is that it's going to be extremely important even for education. I mean, hospitality, yes, but in education, putting scenarios and taking a real life, a working guy who's got an experience and then putting him into scenarios is going to be extremely valuable. He doesn't have to pass through all this. So I think there's quite a bit of something in there, but perhaps we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll share one of the experiences for education. So I was invited to attend this conference called Learn It at London. This was just before COVID. So I visited and I was in the Google booth, and they have asked me to go through their new product of AR, and the Oculus were there, and there is an experience given. So a student is actually through AR, augmented reality, taken to a particular location, and assuming that it is a history session and we were looking at a park or a tomb kind of a heritage structure over there, and then you get the additional information through audio and animated video on your Oculus itself. So it's like student being there and experiencing the whole thing and learning it all at the same time. And yes, I did go through that. I really enjoyed, and I had a few questions and the clarifications. The China team was actually attending to me, and it was a wonderful experience, I must say. So yes, education has got numerous opportunities using these emerging techs, especially AR, VR. And yeah, there's a lot in store for all of us. Thank you.
Back to you, Professor.
Okay, what I will do is now, we will not have any more questions, because these questions will send across to Professor Mr. Peshwa by email. Ethical issues in app tracking, privacy issues, fake information, centralized control. Are there any cybersecurity laws protecting the consumers and organizations from these? So I'll email this question to you. Maybe you can reply. We'll share with our audience.
I've shared my email address
yes,
there.
Yes.
Yeah, so that
Other one is what kind of digital strategies that you recommend for startups for marketing, especially when they begin their organizations? What kind of strategies that you recommend? That also probably can be emailed. And also some suggestions people are looking for in terms of adopting influencer marketing. Of course, the tech and digital world.
Yeah, only two comments I want to do, because influencer marketing I have done, and I have learned also a lot from my son, who has done his internship in PNG. He's a IMA grad, and there his project was influencer marketing. So I've learned a bit from him. PNG is also my old company. So today reverse mentoring is very important.
Yes.
Yeah, and thankfully I have my son and daughter. My son works in Reckitt and my daughter works in IKEA. She's a designer and my son is a management graduate. So there I picked up two things, and I want to share on that influencer thing. Number one is, please focus on the concept called micro influencers, not just the big daddies. That is one. So this is a tip for the startup. The second thing is that unfortunately India influencers, in marketing we call them KOL, key opinion leaders. We don't usually call them influencers. KOLs have become only Bollywood and cricket. When I mean Bollywood, I also include Tollywood and Mollywood and all that. But what I mean is, unfortunately, but that is not the reality. So you can actually have influencers who are related to your category. For example, in education, I don't think you should have, I don't agree with the, strategy of having these stars for some of these big edtech companies. Because I don't think it can give them reach and all that, but I don't think you should actually have key opinion leaders, means people who stand for education in some manner or whatever. I don't know, whatever it is. So so I'm saying that is another thing oftentimes people forget in India. In India it is only Bollywood and cricket. So I think that's the thing, that is where really the role of the person who is taking a decision has to come in. But this is my suggestion. I mean, ultimately they have to take a decision. So only those two comments I had.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. I think it's been a wonderful session over the last several minutes that you have spent your valuable time with us. I can't thank you enough for these inputs and patient responses that you have shared. The questions have been in depth and they have been very serious, and all our participants, every Friday, they come up with such questions. Every time it is a new set of participants. This time, very engaging and incisive questions that they have asked. I must thank you for standing in for Mr. Suresh Reddy at a very, very short notice, and you have actually saved the day or save the night for us. So thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity, sir, to very briefly give a few bullet points for the benefit of our participants as we close. Ladies and gentlemen, some of the learnings that we can take home are the following. Some of the traits that one can learn from the way Mr. Suresh Reddy has built the organization that is Brightcom today is in terms of the entrepreneurial appetite that is summarized with the example of, even if your revenue is at a lower level, you have the appetite and the interest and the desire to acquire organizations double your current revenue. That's a very, very interesting one. And that is something akin to what Mukesh Ambani would do. Second, even when things are not working in your favor, sometimes it happens, the ups and downs are pretty common in business situations. And therefore, when the chips are down, you cannot afford to be down. You have to have a chin up, and you have motivation and positivity will have to be up. And that's a very clear lesson from the entrepreneurial traits of Mr. Suresh Reddy as highlighted by Mr. Peshwa. So the ability to motivate the team members and organize a fight back is the hallmark of an entrepreneur. And that's what Mr. Suresh Reddy has been. And the third is the ability to see much beyond the near future. That is the long-term kept in mind. That is when Mr. Suresh Reddy, as an example, who invested in AI and ML much before others were started talking about it. So that is like having future very clearly seen, and that's what entrepreneurs see when what others cannot see. That's a beautiful example. And some of the things that have greater opportunity, and most of us are not currently doing, is developing vernacular content. Now, developing vernacular content is very good. And second is the emerging requirements of voice in this digital world, how it can play, it can affect, and it can help changing the experiences and solving some of the problems is another emerging area which some of the companies will have to look far beyond. The other takeaway is, in today's world, technology is actually not local, but it is global. Any product or any service that you launch right from the start is global. It depends on your appetite to see it the way you want, but that's actually global. And the important points that Mr. Peshwa has mentioned is that Hyderabad has got an advantage, just like India has got an advantage with respect to the image of being high-tech. So that's a very nice point that you have mentioned, almost like a GI tag of high-tech that Hyderabad possesses, and a few other cities in this country. So that Hyderabad or India advantage is something the new entrepreneurs will have to actually bank on and build their businesses and build in that direction. The digital advertising in India is actually growing quite a bit, and it is roughly about 35% of the overall marketing spends, and it is soon going to be 50%. That's the prediction given by Mr. Peshwa. And outdoor will suffer a little bit. TV will try and maintain its ground. This is what is more or less we are seeing, but a large part of this revenue will be coming from, in terms of digital, it is coming from mobile. So that's a very, very interesting prediction given out by Mr. Peshwa. The rural penetration, especially among the farmer segments, has been pretty high. This is a learning, and agri-tech products and services are showing the signs of this emerging trend. And there's a lot, based on the current technologies, there's a lot of consumer intelligence that is being gathered now more than ever before. And audio, in terms of podcasts, will be a big emerging sector, because people will be seeking specialized information rather than generic or general information. So that is going to be served by podcasts, and therefore audio is going to be a very big thing. And digitization or digitalization is happening right in front of our eyes, especially with the example of medical diagnostics or healthcare technologies that we see, either in terms of electronic medical records, which are required now to process and keep track of the patient journey with various interventions that are to be made by the hospital or the doctor. So it's extremely helpful, and that is a big sector in itself. There's a huge market, according to Mr. Peshwa. The other thing is that the story of the surgeons that I've heard in Mumbai in one of the conferences is also that the surgeon is going to be the knife or the intelligent knife, and it is called iKnife. And iKnife is driven by, or it is loaded with AI and ML, and it can read, for example, the knife is going to cut into a particular organ in your body. It reads roughly around 500 relevant articles that are that are actually published, and there is every suggestion that is picked up automatically, and then what is needed to be done with respect to the pathology of a particular organ. With that, the iKnife will enter into your body, will cut open your body if required. And while it is doing surgery on one organ, it will scan the rest of the organs around that targeted organ and also finish the other work, which is actually is not intending to do. And I think there's a lot of feedback that comes to the doctors who are actually using these iKnives, the physical, actual human doctors. And then there's a lot of decision making that is made possible, which otherwise is very, very difficult to do. One has to actually do an intervention much later, and many more interventions will also not reveal, given the constraints of knowledge, given the constraints of patient conditions, and the risk that is involved in actually operating multiple times. So that's a fantastic example given by both Professor Prasad as well as Mr. Peshwa. So thank you very much for these things. And I also partly mentioned that ICFAI is a very interesting case study, right from the last 3.5 decades. We released advertisements in print mentioning that you look at the advertisement and draw a DD in the name of ABCD, and we used to give our account number as well. I mean, the name of the organization image. And it used to happen. It used to happen 3.5 decades back that there is a print ad, and at the end of the print ad, we used to say, please draw a DD in this. And it used to happen. And we used to have huge enrollments, and that's where our tagline says, we built a huge non-contact, minimum contact flexible education programs through that mode 3.5 decades back. From then to now, the lead management system has completely undergone a paradigm shift. Now it is on cloud, and now we use funnels. And of course, the lead management system is one. The other, in terms of delivery also during pandemic, we have deployed learning management systems that are actually cutting edge, which was built during peace and not during war. And therefore, there was some amount of farsightedness deployed into the operations of ICFAI also about 8, 9, or 10 years back. And it has come to our rescue. And therefore, the experience of the students from remote connections also has been fantastic. I thought I'll just share this. But one very interesting point that Mr. Peshwa has mentioned is that education, healthcare, and real estate are big bets for digital, not just digital marketing, but the digital experience and the opportunities that it will throw open for various stakeholders in this ecosystem. And one advice Mr. Peshwa has very rightly given is that the entrepreneurs and the youngsters and the leaders will have to have the clarity of purpose identified very, very clearly, and the honesty in executing one's strategies and plans. I think these two will define the success of various organizations and individuals in the days to come. On this very happy note, I would like to once again thank Mr. Peshwa for this wonderful session at a very short notice. And I wish we had the opportunity of meeting Mr. Suresh Reddy, but we will definitely call him back one day when he is fine and hale and healthy. You know, listening to his stories from the horse's mouth is a different experience altogether. Absolutely. On behalf of ICFAI, please convey our best wishes so that he gets well very soon and comes back asking for his share on the screen on ICFAI platform. I mean, I'm going to ask him in a different way, but you can share with him that,
Surely,
we
absolutely.
request him to come back and address our participants once again. So
Thank
thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we take your leave after this very, very long session, but extremely interesting and eye-opening, insightful sessions through Brightcom today, through one of its leaders, Mr. Peshwa. And we look forward to meeting you next week as well through one more distinguished leader coming from JP Morgan Chase. Its managing director is going to speak to us. Ms. Sirisha Vurganti is going to address all of us. So let's look forward very eagerly to listening to and learning from yet another distinguished leader, Mr. Sirisha Vurganti, March 4th at 7:30 p.m. Till then, do take care. We see you next week on Friday. Thank you all and good night.